and to Richard, and of course your listenership. So
Yes.
you see me moving around, it's because I have been moving around.
That's good.
Yes, yes. So
So, how
that's
was your weekend? Trinidad has been doused with rain and more rain. A lot of bad weather, as they call it, with lightning, thunder,
yes,
floods all over
I
the
saw
place.
the pictures on the videos. Oh my God, I couldn't even believe it, it was
Yes,
that terrible.
yes, it
And you saw
is.
the silt in the on the streets. I mean, it was really, really bad. But as I had indicated, I'm not home. When I
Yeah,
say I'm not home, home is Trinidad and Tobago. So anytime
yes,
I say I'm not home, I don't mean literally my home, but I mean
yes,
my country, our country, our country. I don't want to be take only personal possession, our country,
hmm
our nation. So
yes.
I didn't experience bad weather, but it's time to come home too. Time to come home too. We always want to make a contribution, and that's what I hope I continue to do.
Yes, yeah, they do a fantastic job where that is concerned.
Yeah, actually, I got Daddy Mark, where I got your
Information.
articles on the Lake Asphalt, so I had a better understanding, even more so, of the issues. So now that I think I understand it better, in that Petrotrin would produce the bitumen, but they would mix that bitumen with the lake
Yes.
asphalt, and that is the what they would use on highways, on runways, because there was a high quality. So that is what you require. You need the bitumen, which would be mixed with the asphalt. And now that Petrotrin is closed down, they are not providing the bitumen, and there's no way that you can mix it to produce a superior level of asphalt for road paving. I mean,
True.
yes, and it's reading the articles that you sent me actually helped to clarify it,
Yeah.
for me anyhow, and maybe your listeners and viewers already understood it well. So what I really mean by that is that moving it from the Ministry of Energy to Ministry of Works, I don't know what's that about. And in fact, all these potholes, I mean,
I
it
tell
is,
you.
I mean, it is, I mean, what do you think? What is your view on it? I mean, it is just scandalous.
I
And,
tell you,
and,
I've
and
never seen that deplorable situations across the country. Down on my side, the Libre, the San Fernando to Libre, the moment you get to Oropuch, it's very, very, very bad all the way to Point Fountain. And it's not only the people in that area have that complaint.
it's
It's all over. Bad roads all over.
all over. And I mean, what that a government is known for, all governments, not
Yeah.
just this, every government, is any now local government elections are coming up. One thing they do, you start paving fast. This
Yes.
after complaints, you see them paving fast. But they're not capable of doing it. And when I say they're not capable of doing it, because all of this is what I don't, appreciate, and about the government. And I may be going off on a little bit of a tangent, but not really.
Okay.
Someone asked me, I had seen Richard coming on.
Yes.
Someone had asked me, why is there Jamaica and Barbados? Why it is, and they are American for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
American citizens, and they're saying, why is it that they have a better relationship, or stronger relationship with their government, and the government seems to be doing much better? Well, to be fair to our government, we are not a homogeneous society, meaning that we're not one race. We may have class, but every country has their class structure.
Yeah.
We have a situation that Jamaica does not have and Barbados does not have, in that our population is not only racially diverse in equal numbers for the two major ones,
Yeah.
but you're talking about religion and culture. That's a lot to handle for any government to
Yeah.
have to deal with that. So that is a major thing. But the main thing was the extent to which there is belief and confidence and trust in the government. And I particularly, the person who asked me that, who does not live in the Caribbean at all and doesn't have an eye, Richard, he said to me, "Oh my God, I saw when they had this thing with Mia Motley.
Yeah.
Everybody was just passing on when she went to United Nations. She was so fantastic. I mean, she's all over.
Yeah.
That her message spread, and it comes back to the point that I now seem to have veered away from, but it really is. You can't trust what they tell you.
That's
You are
right.
not going to tell me as a minister, but you just think all of us are village idiots. Stop treating us like that. Worst thing a person likes to be is to insult their intelligence, right?
True.
And it is, you don't like people to insult intelligence. If you'd be frank with me, be straight up, but don't be taking I am a fool and only you're like the emperor with no clothes. Who do you think you're fooling?
That's right.
You were coming and saying it needs restructuring and that cannot be the reason why you have not fixed those roads. You would have done it. You've gotten so much bad press from it. When you go in a local government action, there's no way this government would not have fixed those roads, right? It cannot fix your roads because they do not have the asphalt, the bitumen to do that.
That's
because they shut down Petrotrain and they don't want to admit to it.
Yes, that is true.
They do not want to admit that they shut down Petrotrain when the board had told them you should restructure Petrotrain. And parts of it, you don't need the old part. We don't need to go back there. But there are parts that company, Nikwan, was set up on that same Petrotrain grounds as you're from South too.
Yes.
Hemi saying too,
Yeah.
I forgot to say this. By the way, as I'm saying this, I forgot to say when I was boasting about the Calypsonians, I forgot to say that 3 prime ministers come from the South.
Yes.
And
yes.
Kamla Prasad and my favorite, Patrick Manning.
That's right.
I forgot to say 3 of our prime ministers came from the South. So there we go. South, take a bow.
Yeah.
Anyhow, coming back to this, it is so insulting.
I don't think we headed back south.
Well, I just saying that because I originally consider myself a South person. You know where I grew up is where you
But
always
you're Marval, right?
No, I see why you was with this Marval talk. I never grew up in Marval. I told you already. I grew up down in Point Fortin. Now it's true I grew up on the camp, but I grew up in Point Fortin, the Tesheira village. They had a Mahaika right around there. The when they had the roundabout by the Dunlop roundabout with Dunlop.
Yes.
I grew up in South. Stop putting me in any other place.
So you're in South still? Yes.
I am not in South still, but your growing years. My growing years they were in South.
But that point across. The best looking finance minister of all time.
What are you coming out to talk again? Richard, let me just finish my point.
No.
You want to find a prime minister deflection.
West corridor, just no.
It wasn't what part of the East-West corridor you are.
To the east.
You don't worry about where I am on East-West corridor, okay? You just worry that I said that my growing years was South, and I very much, it is true, I truly identify a lot with South, because when I came into Port of Spain, I really felt like a country bookie come to town. I was very intimidated when I came in, I went to school in Port of Spain, I went to convent San Fernando for the first 3 years. It was a real country school with wooden buildings. I know it's changed now.
Yeah.
But it was more children who came from, a lot of the children came from the outlying areas like Moruga and Princestown, and more rural communities, not sophisticated communities. So when I went into town to go to school, I was intimidated because, this was anyway, but that's not the point I was making. The point I was making was with this thing about telling us restructuring. You are not going to tell me you're paying $2.5 million every month to pay salaries over how many, I don't know how long the period has been. You are not operating. You have people there out of jobs. All the roads through east and west. Yeah, from the east to the west, the north to the south. You know that one, right?
Yes.
It's the PNM. There we go, right?
And central.
But we don't have good news about that story. Potholes all over.
Yes.
And so there's no way you're going to tell me is you structuring and all this thing. Is you close down Petrotrain and you don't want to admit that you made a big error.
That's right.
And that's the truth.
Don't want to admit it.
Some people may think it's an error for political reasons. I'll embrace it as an error. But I see it as more than that. See now that they're talking about, they had to save people's lives. I'm sure you heard them on the platform.
No, I wasn't interested in that, and I don't always want
to
have my sleep on. I like to get it distilled. I like this distillation and editing. So how did he save people's lives, though? I mean, honestly, I'm asking.
What he said is that the roads got bad in other words. And they
Mm-hmm.
saw it deteriorated. But they couldn't do anything about it because the money that they had to put it towards saving people's lives. COVID now, you know. And you know,
Oh my
you said we
God.
had to save your life. Yeah, we
You know,
saved your lives. I said on the show the other day, I didn't tell him he did not save my life. I didn't tell him that. I listened to CNN, BBC, MSNBC, Fox. The same people they were getting information from, I listened to them too, and I applied what I heard from them to me. He did not save my life, right? But that is what he's telling people all over the country still. They had no money because they had to save people's lives. The poor people got nothing from the measures they came up with, you know. They say I opened again a long book for the small man to sign. They couldn't pull it out, and before one could have pulled out one, they come back and say they double dipping. They had to stop it. They had to
Yeah, but
stop it.
okay. So
Small
what?
man
So
got
what?
nothing.
So
Yeah.
but right now the issue with the potholes is even becoming worse and worse, and this is more
But the
recent
point I was
since.
going to make is this: when he was making that point, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
after he said that, he said we're going to fix all the roads now. The roads they were bad before, they're bad now, and they're going to fix. They've set up a company now. He said, just like a committee, they set up a company, and that company would be entrusted with the responsibility to go around and do what they had to do on Saturday. So soon we'll see road fixing. Well, we know why election is close. We know that. But you know what concerns me? Sometimes you remember what happened with the port, Trinidad and Tobago and the port.
No, go ahead though.
This government created an emergency. They could say what they want by sending back the superfast Galicia, even if they
Yeah.
felt like
Mm-hmm.
good grounds to do so. But
Mm-hmm.
sending it away
And you
without
had
a
to replace
replacement,
one.
no replacement. And what they did is kill the economy in Tobago. But you see, they knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to
Yeah.
create an emergency to do what they actually did. Part of what they did was to bring in a galleon passage, where anytime you buy a ticket, people realize the ticket is for that boat. They're going back for their money. They're making noise. Some people ready to sleep on the port. That is one of the things that brought in for
Well,
$120 million to that boat that serves nobody. You know, when they realize that was going on here, they say, well, we built a port in Toko, and the galleon passage would run 1 hour from Toko to Tobago and back. You see, nothing has happened with the port in Tobago. Let me tell you,
no,
next thing you hear about that galleon passage, you're going to hear the scrap iron dealers who removed the gate, they thief the gate. See, they're going to hear the galleon passage are dried up because the thief half the boat. Where did
but I will tell you this. I'll tell you this, Richard. It really makes
Yeah.
you unfortunately it comes back to trust and confidence. Um
Oh,
they
people have
create they
misunderstanding.
can, I'm not saying they're doing that, but it is not an unreasonable thing to say or to consider that they create an emergency because they want to create a situation for somebody to get a contract, right?
That is the
And
idea, Karen. That's how I
and
was going, and that's why we had this company
that is what
formed
it makes
already
you think,
and
huh?
ready to launch. So here, what that's why they have a company perhaps formed already and ready to
Yes.
launch, so that nobody would look into the company because the roads are so bad. All they want to see is road fixing, and they will pay attention to who fixing it and how much it costs them to fix it.
Yeah, and
It's a
I think this too. I think this too, though. Before I agree with that, but you know, when you make lemons, you try to make lemonade. Well, they make a
Yes.
lemon meringue pie because what it is, I do not think they wanted the roads to reach to this. If for no government who want the roads to reach the condition that it had reached and have the lake asphalt workers having to, you know, go out there and march and so on. I don't think it would have thing, but what they realize is that the reality is that it's the closing down of Petrotrin created this thing. So they had to come up with something new, and they had to come up with something new as if they were saving the country, and then somebody is going to benefit from it. So they took
Yeah.
the lemons and made lemonade with it, right? But I mean, it just makes you have no, it's like what's going on in, not that I'm segueing out of that, but it's relevant to the point we're making, which I read in the paper. So I think it's one of the daily newspapers, obviously. Where they're talking about this building Marriott hotels out in Tobago, and the interviewer asked Farley, the head of the THA, why are you going into these new hotels, these new superior hotels in Car? And well, I think the owner is Mr. Aboud. I think that was the name, or he's the main person. And they're asking, there are so many hotels already there that need refurbishing. Why are you not putting the money into that? Not only that, the Marriott, the Hotel Hilton that was then leased out to another international company had to close down because of the sea blast and because it's the beach is not, you can't really, it's not a place that you go and swim. And wherever they intend to put this new hotel, it's the same, it's on, apparently it's on some bluff or some rock. And and it has the same challenges of not being able to swim there. So they're asking, why is Superior Homes or whatever they call themselves being given permission to build new hotel stock when the hotel stock they have cannot even, it's not even being fully, you're not getting the tourists for that. And there's hotel stock there that needs refurbishing. Why is your money not being put into that? And well, at the point of the article appearing, there was no answer. There was no answer from anybody. Nobody could tell you why they didn't try, why you're going in a place where you had the same problems you had with Hilton, the very same problems that made you close down the Hilton and whichever the new brand was. The same sea blast, same problems that caused you to close it down. You go in and build a hotel just in the same kind of situation. Why would you do that? Why would you put money there? And also, why would you not put the money into hotels that need refurbishing? What's the sense in that? And where is the demand coming from? So you ask yourself, and they can't answer you. Nobody can answer you that. And you just don't have. And let me just tell you, I personally, honestly, I have no confidence or trust in this government. I really have none, and they could say I'm whatever they want to say, but they've done enough. They've done enough for me to say what I'm saying. They've done enough for me not to have confidence in them.
Karen, your lack of trust or your absence of trust and confidence in this government, I think it's well placed. I think you're not alone in that. I am on that page with you as well, and many other citizens of our country today. Many, 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 many. So that's why I see the government, the Prime Minister, for example, all about with Andrew Holness having press conference. This is what there's like to have prop-ups. So he wants to look now like he's an international leader. People like him around the Caribbean and hope some of that rub off on the citizens. When you rub people the wrong way for too long, you might have to spend a lifetime to rub them in a different direction for them to turn the mind, And he don't have the strength for that. Bringing Holness, and he probably might need to bring in your friend Boris Johnson to say something foolishly, because he might attract the attention of the people in Trinidad and Tobago. If he comes here, I think a lot of people are going to see him, Probably something like that might rub off on him. But you can't bring somebody like the former president of the United States, because that's not a good comparison to stand up next to. You may not like Barack some, but he's too decent, too loved around the world, and people may think, look, he want to be like Barack, and then it will just be worse for him. So you had to bring in somebody like Johnson. What's his name? Boris Johnson. You had to bring somebody like that who people could say Dr. Rowley looks really good in comparison to, and he's not as radical and this and that and the other. While they will go to see Boris still, for him to get a little lift, but bringing in Andrew Holness, decent, pleasant Prime Minister, gentleman. People are going to see him in isolation, as they talk about in silos, if he could view things in such a way too, without connecting however they feel about him to Dr. Rowley. They've already made up their minds about Dr. Rowley. I have made up minds too, and you have made up yours. You have just expressed that. You have gone too far. So if you wanted the roads to get bad, and you want just to highlight the point that it had no money and they had no resources, I just want to say, you're in there in the 8th year now. A government is 5 years. When you sign up for that job, you have 5 years to prove to the citizens of this country that you could turn things around and improve their lives. Nobody put you in there forever, for you to take forever to get somebody 3 cents. Come on, it's time to pack up.
Let me just say this, because I want to correct my view of what you just spoke about in relation to letting the roads get bad. I don't think the intention was to let the roads get that bad, but because they couldn't get the required mix of the bitumen from Petrotrin to mix with it.
The material from
Got that
Petrotrin.
bad.
No, you said
Yeah.
that. I think everybody got that. I added.
Right, yeah. But so what I'm saying is this.
Yeah.
It wasn't, they didn't set out to get it bad so they could get it good. But they got it bad because it is stupidness and they don't want to admit that they did foolishness. So now that they have to reach a point where everybody, north, south, east, and west, experiencing marriage, that you can't get around the thing, they come on up now with he comes with all kinds of explanations, and now they're trying to create a company to see as if no company needed to be informed if you were doing your work. No need for this. The idea of the company coming as to save and deal with the potholes is no excuse for you allowing it to reach to that point. That's you
No
doing as though you doing us. You doing as though you're doing us a favor. Like if you're coming out to save us, excuse me. You've been in charge the last 7 years. It's under your government that the roads got bad. You're doing it. If it was Kamala Prasad was the prime minister and she let all the roads get bad, and you have to come in now to save the day with your knight in shining armor to go and save the day and form this company because this is the quickest way to do it. You did it. And now you want to do it, so you saving us. What you are doing now is, and the money you said you did not have, I sure you have to be paying some good money with this company. You cannot take any credit. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed to say, you should be ashamed to try to make that sound. You see, think everybody's stupid. There was another point, what was your point? Because I wanted to give my perspective.
You could never think you are one of those, where said just now the expression you use? A village what?
A village idiot.
A village idiot, yes.
Yeah, village idiot. Village idiot.
They could never think you're one, Karen. I am not one either. They may want to think so, but I'm not one.
But they know they can't. They can't do that. I mean, they would love to do that, and they love. But But my thing is, I'm not doing it out of any ill will.
No, you are talking openly for the people of Trinidad.
Exactly, and
the government has had a long enough run to have turned things around. You need 8 years, and it sounds like it's yesterday.
This is what I wanted to see. This is what it was. I know I had the other point. Yeah. What he realizes is this. He's not, remember we have CARICOM, eh? Now he may not have been a great believer in CARICOM for whatever his reasons may be. He may not have been the thing. But what CARICOM has done for Mia Mottley, it has made Mia Mottley almost like the Prime Minister of Trinidad and of the whole Caribbean. Then you have Guyana. You have Guyana. Huh?
Yeah.
And then you have Guyana with Khan being seen as someone, a thinker. Then you have Holness, who is popular in Jamaica, but the reason they got popular, one of the reasons why his government has been so successful is that the whole country, trade unions, business, opposition, when they were opposition, Holness was opposition then. The government of the day, I can't remember the lady's name, who was the prime minister, and the people said enough is enough. We have to come together, and they brought in the IMF with a special arrangement. You're right, and they brought in the IMF on a special arrangement, and it's supposed to be a great success story. So he realizes that his standing in the Caribbean community has been overshadowed by Mia Mottley, Mr. Prime Minister Khan, who came to Trinidad for the Agro Industry Expo, Holness, and he is like, and so he's trying to undo the damage he did to his own self, starting with the COVID-19, saying not taking the vaccines from Mia Mottley and saying Trinidad is not beggars, and then treating, and instead of going to the they had a big conference in Guyana on the energy sector, and instead of going to something that concerned the CARICOM and the region, you jump on a plane and go to Europe. And you go on Europe. So what he's trying to do, just how they're trying to do with the roads, they create their problem. You create your problem, that problem was, it didn't have to happen. You didn't have to say something like Kamala Prasad said, Trinidad is not an ATM machine, After she said that was the end of her with the CARICOM. But what I'm saying is you created and you allow these others, Guyana, Barbados, and Jamaica, to become heroes for the CARICOM region. And now you're trying to capture that. And that is what I think is behind all of this, trying to come across as a Caribbean person, meeting the St. Vincent and Grenadines minister, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, I don't think he was I don't know why I got the impression I was not one of his favorite persons. Maybe because Manning was one of his
Manning friend.
And that Manning, good friend. If you go in the lounge
and in Mr. Manning's funeral, he said, it had those who walked around with like sambal. You remember he spoke about that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yes. So that
yes. So
he trying now. Yeah. So he stayed away from him because Ralph was vexed because Patrick was his real friend.
And right, Patrick, and you know why?
He saw and heard the things that was said about Patrick that he felt.
No. What really made him, because we were in government, I was minister then. Yeah. It was Mr. Manning had this CARICOM petroleum fund. Mm-hmm. And it was to help out people within the region. I guess he didn't want them to go Petrocaribe with Venezuela that was competing and so on. But in any event, he gave Ralph Gonsalves his first $100 million US for the airport. That airport they built because they had to, dynamite it and et cetera. And then Ralph Gonsalves went all over the world with his little briefcase and eventually raised the money. But he never forgot Patrick Manning for giving him that from the fund, the petroleum fund, the first $100 million US to start that new airport. So if you go in the departure lounge in St. Vincent, Argyle, where the airport is, there is a picture of Mr. Manning hanging next to that of the Prime Minister, and the Governor General. So that is a esteem with which he holds Mr. Manning. And I think
I will go there next week just to see that.
Yes, I see it. I've seen it myself. I have family living in St. Vincent.
Yes. Well, I like Ralph more. I don't know why they tried to interfere with his head, that woman. I've got across there and actually, a woman threw a missile at him. And for him to had to take a different haircut. My co-host on a Friday, he said he bust his head. I don't like.
Yes, I heard about that. That's true when he was on the way to Parliament. Yeah. But because you know why?
That was wicked, but
the Parliament politics are heated.
It's very heated here. I saw that kind of cuss out in the Parliament too.
I remember. Yes, I saw that. Yeah. Yes, I saw it.
It's nasty across there.
No. Yeah. Not that I'm going to pick up for Ralph Gonsalves, but everybody knows he is like Soulfish. He's a brilliant man.
I'm picking up for him now, especially that you told me what he did for Mr. Manning in the airport.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And listen to me.
I derailed you. Hold on. I derailed you. You were talking about why Dr. Rowley is now going around the Caribbean.
But that's it. So that's what. Yeah. So he's trying. There's a picture of him shaking Ralph Gonsalves' hands. Like he and Ralph are good friends. He's trying to make friends with Guyana after you say, the way he behaved and the poor Guyanese, or the Indian. Well, no, that's India. So we just staying in the CARICOM region. With the Guyanese, and the Guyanese didn't want to do business with us. Remember they say by the manufacturers, is it the business association, their equivalent, didn't want to have any business with Trinidad because they felt very insulted by our attitude, not our Prime Minister's attitude towards them. And then Mia Motley outshining him by, oh God, I mean, it just, there's no explanation.
She's the leader of the Caribbean.
She's the leader. And Holness is highly respected.
You ever saw an American president hugging up anybody in the Caribbean? You actually saw Biden hugging up Mia Motley. What I told you?
Oh God, yes. I mean,
that told you he pick up what she has within her, what she represents. Is something that is worth admiring. He's saying, I can embrace you because that picture is all about for people to see me doing that. Because what you represent, Mia, is something I represented throughout my political life and so on. Fighting for causes.
Yeah, and I think he had
what cause this one has fought for.
No, but I think understanding. I think how I was just read something before I came on. And there's one of these, well-known philosophers or whatever. And they said the whole thing, what causes wars or causes things is because people want to be important. People want to be important. And I think now that Dr. Rowley is not a young man. I mean, I don't know that he would want to. He said he never wanted to be prime minister. The first time he said, and you know what he said? You believe me when I say that I did not want to be prime minister. So he's clearly prime minister second time under great duress and personal sacrifice and a martyr to the country. So he would have done his 2 cents unwillingly, but for love of country. So we won't expect him to be putting his hat in the ring next time around. So what he's trying to do, which Mr. Manning did, I thought Mr. Manning was doing, but in a positive way. I thought they do. They like legacy building. Now they want to be statesmen. Now they're thinking of the books that are going to be written about them next 20, 30 years. What are people going to say about them as prime ministers? What are they going to think about him? What kind of statesmanship? And those are the things he's now focusing on, I think. And in focusing on that, he's being overshadowed by nearly every member of CARICOM, big island and small island. And I think it's irking him. I think he is reflecting on it. And I think he's trying now to do some damage, not damage control, but trying to rebrand himself, because I think he's looking now to be seen as a statesman. All of them want that, at the end of the day, when you get old, that's what you want, Huh?
That's self-actualization.
You want self-actualization.
Yes.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Yes, it's absolutely true. Because when you have achieved and you've gone in the cut and thrust of politics,
he doesn't have a money problem. He doesn't have a power problem. So what is motivating him? What is motivating him has to be what you are talking about. How people would do, especially now where he realized he's seeing the door open through which he has to go. He's in the corridor for the final walk. So you want to make sure
lounge. He's in the departure lounge.
Yeah. So you now want to make sure those behind him who are going to do the writing, he's trying to say to them,
no, it's true.
Oh,
it's
right.
true.
Throwing some of this, throwing some of this.
True.
I met this one, I went here, I brought people. But it's too late. I would read some of the books and write on him. I could tell you, oh my damn, it will take him.
But that's what he's trying. And guess what?
15 years to change what people have written already. They just waited to publish.
No.
It is a steep climb.
No, Richard, you know what will happen? Anybody who is worth their salt and does any kind of analysis of leaderships and leaders will know that's what he's trying to do. So even in his effort to do that, he will fail because he has done so much damage to himself. I considered, for example, the calling the state of emergency off when the purpose of the state of emergency was not for civil unrest, but was for control of that contagious disease. And in the month of November and December, it was the highest recorded number of deaths from COVID-19. And yet he thought it right in the interest of us, interest of his political interest to bring the state of emergency to an end so that he could go on politic in Tobago. And he got what he deserved, 14-1. Right? So he is a Tobagonian in his own country. Prophet is without honor in his own country. That you think about that. So what I'm saying is, he came trying at
Jesus said that to you,
I know. You have I know what behind you.
Yes.
I know what behind you, so I know I already make you out.
And I realized at home today, Karen, I've seen your photos behind.
No. My own. I don't know what you see behind me, but it's all Trinidadian artists.
Building.
I am not in Trinidad. It's Jackie Hinkson.
You carried some of the paintings up?
No, you don't understand. I am a real Trinidad. I am in family home, but I am a supporter of our local artists. And so they have behind you are 2 Jackie Hinksons, and in front of me is a Bosco holder. So we support our artists. And when they come to Trinidad to visit, and they go and buy our local artists. Right? I am a Trini to my bone.
We know that, Karen.
Trini Tobagonian to my bone.
Completely. Trini women are the best looking women all over the world.
You're coming and stop again.
No, so I'm telling you, so when we look at you, we know you are full blown Trini, Karen.
Oh, God.
In this country. Trini looks, come on. Yeah. So you were saying what you were saying. I don't want to derail you. that a
Yeah.
prophet
You don't want to do like deflect,
is not
deflect.
recognized in his own home. What did the Begonians did to him?
Give him a good licking. I mean, but you know what? I wrote an article on it, and the reason
Yeah.
I wrote the article was because, you're hiding behind you care about us so much. I'm not saying he didn't care at all, but he cared less about us than he cared about himself. And we don't want politicians like that. We have enough. Not everybody's made out to be a prime minister, and not everybody's made out to be a good prime minister or good minister. You have to be willing to make sacrifices for the people, in the interest of the people. And what he did in the height, you remember the numbers were the highest in November and December, and you had a state of emergency called twice, which you had the power to do under the Constitution, on the basis of a contagious disease, which was at its full bloom. I mean, that's not probably a good word to use. It's what you call oxymoron, it's a contradiction, but it was in its worst stage at that time. And you brought it an end because you were thinking of your political self, and you're going to Tobago and being able to politic, and you were not thinking of the interests of the people, because the reason you called it was to stop us from gathering, to stop us from doing all of that. And yet why did you do it? It could only be one answer. If there's another answer,
It was important to him.
It's important to him. Important to him. That's what I can. That is what. And you see that?
And they figured that out too.
And you know what he got?
Couldn't open their business.
14-1.
Well, it was like it was 14-1, but the one had to be recounted. So it was 14 and barely won.
Yeah, but we don't want to go down that road. 14 is bad, eh? Oh God, I mean, oh Lord. If I do an exam, it have 15 marks, and I get 1 out of 15. I think I feel I didn't only fail.
That topic, yeah.
I don't only fail. I mean, oh God. I didn't know about that exam.
No, you can't go back there. You're humiliating yourself. Don't tell nobody anything. Just hide it. Yeah. After that licking, we didn't hear him for a long time,
Yeah, but the point we're making, though, Richard, because I was like, maybe it's the lawyer in me. The point I really am making is all these examples.
But look at you, Karen, you're showing off the lawyer in you. Well, I will pause a bit. It could be the legal degree in me, not the lawyer. Yes.
I'm sorry I say that. I'm sorry I say that.
No.
Oh God. You see now you make me look, which I won't ever want to look, as if I am lacking in modesty and thing. The only intent in my saying that was that lawyers tend to look at facts from what is the connection between this and that. The facts may be different, but there's a connection. So I guess I look at things to see what I think are the connections. So when you mention, let me talk about the closing on Petrotrin, and now talking all this nonsense about the fixing the roads, which you call a lot, I have no trust in that. Then you're running around now trying to be a CARICOM leader like me. You can't be Pia. It's too late. It's way too late. She didn't get one out of. In her, I think it's 15 seats. She got all 15.
All 15.
She got all 15. Right?
People in the Caribbean pay attention to the politics in Trinidad. They saw how he was posturing throughout. You understand? That's just radical.
But I don't want to.
No, but I want to say this. They saw him.
Yeah.
And then he postured that way.
Yeah.
With them as well.
Yeah.
In subtle ways. And the mistake I felt that he made is that he believed the people who liked that about him in Trinidad, albeit a minority, he felt he could have behaved that way and resonated with some of the people in other parts of the Caribbean. But they rejected him and that behavior before he got there. So they had a made-up mind about him, and then he went and confirmed some of the stuff that caused them to make up their minds one way or another. So that it's really hard for him to try to reposition himself in the view of the Caribbean people, the way they perceive him. It's hard
can I say this in his not in his defense, but and I have said that before not on this station, because I mean I would have said it on this station for sure, but it was in the early days of the COVID, and I had said, what one looks at as being a negative is that it's like my father once told me, a chemist's knife cuts both ways. So at the time of COVID, that personality trait that he had of strength and, abrasiveness and aggressiveness was probably what was needed. Because if you had a person like, with all due respect to President Biden or President Trump, who's divisive, and or a president you didn't come across as being in control, in charge, and no nonsense, I don't think he would have been able to have had the success he had with COVID-19 that he had. I think people took him seriously and felt that he wasn't making joke. And I think we needed that type of leadership at the time. Unfortunately, he was not able, right? So you give Jack his jacket.
No, I agree.
Give him that. Right. But what the problem was,
hold on, Karen. There were some parts, remember your line, but there were some parts of the COVID when it started that it required nobody else's intervention but his own, his tone. It fell right in his alley to, in other words, tell the country, this is what we're doing and we maintain in this position. You follow what I'm saying? Right? And we are not going to the beach, he's shutting down the river and so on and so on.
And people listen to him.
Personality for that. Where somebody else might have wavered and it might have gotten out of hand.
Exactly.
Right? And the bar shut down and so on. That was for him, but the sad reality is that is not every day in the country. That is not.
Well, that's what we're saying now.
5 years, yeah.
This is what we're saying. So you have to contextualize things. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You have to put things in our context. So at the time, we needed that, but what he didn't do, because it became naturally to him to behave, to conduct himself like that, and it was a successful for the time when that was needed, he was not able to transform or translate or to move on from that to a more a prime minister that was more safety, more calm, more gentle, more. He didn't command your respect like our mayor did. He didn't do that, and he was not able to do that. So he got stuck in his own. What was his strength became his weakness once COVID had now kind of faded into the background. So his strength now turned into the weakness, and he has not been able to recover. And in fact, what people are remembering, I think a lot of people thought, had not COVID happened, based on the local government elections alone, and UNC gaining another seat in the regional corporation, when she certainly did not have the budget, she certainly did not have the support, financial or otherwise, and to gain a seat in local government election when everybody thought she was a spent force. And for her to have done that, it was the dress rehearsal. And I think people believed, as I actually believe, that is why he tried to make good with some of the old guard in the PNM, to bring that back in the fold, to show a more united PNM. But COVID-19 was his savior. But what has happened now, he's gone, he can't get out of that personality trait. He's the same thing that was his weakness before COVID-19 has returned in full force. That's my view.
He lacks flexibility. He cannot maneuver to the changing times and play the necessary relevant role as times change to match that period. Yeah, I see. And I agree. He knows one. In other words, you are saying in effect he's a one-trick pony. But he didn't say that.
You like to put, you
Karen, we have to communicate to our listeners.
Richard, you know what? I got frightened for those kind of things you say. And as Mrs. Tesheira said, the Prime Minister is a one-trick pony. But you didn't say, I didn't say that, but you didn't disagree.
No, right. No, but what I'm saying is, I am saying in other words,
my God,
I'm expressing the same thing in a different way to say to our listeners, this is what you meant. A one-trick pony is a pony that could do only one trick. He only know one thing, which is to shout and put on a heavy tone and swell his throat.
Yes, it's true. Huh?
That's all. Yeah. And if you don't have an issue that requires that, he's in trouble.
Yeah, but they know many issues don't.
Same thing. I mean, so he's inflexible, and
that is true.
Yeah,
I think that is true.
I think you were right. I believe him when you said, because I didn't hear him say it. You said he said it, which was he didn't want to be prime minister. I believe him on one count. I believe him on one count only. I disagree with him on every other part with that statement. But I believe him on one part based on his performance, I believe him. A person who wanted to be prime minister couldn't perform this poorly. So I believe him.
No, he did say that.
He didn't want the job to perform this poorly. So I believe him. I believe
Yes, he did say that. He said, you wouldn't believe me, eh? He said, you won't believe me, eh? But I really didn't want to be prime minister. Yeah, well, we don't believe you.
I believe him. I believe him, yeah.
You believe him? Okay, for different reasons.
Based on his performance. I'm going to put that on.
Yeah.
Only based on his performance. Yeah.
Yeah, but he did really say that. He did say that.
Okay.
He did say that when his first term, when he came in, he said, "This is, anyway." That's what he said. But
I was an active member in the PNM, and I had meetings down in Diego Martin West when we were discussing him becoming leader. I was invited, and he could say that to who wasn't down in that meeting and in other places, and the fight on the ground and the lobbying for votes. I don't know that you don't want to be prime minister, and that's what you're gonna go through. Come on. I mean,
and he certainly had and he certainly
go with that, but that is pure nonsense talk. But based on his performance, I believe him.
But remember years ago he also tried to replace. There was a campaign. He launched a campaign supported by. He said, well, let me not say it on, but it is recorded in the Commission of Inquiry into the construction industry. When he challenged Mr. Manning for the leadership of the opposition leader. And once you become opposition leader, if you win, there you become prime minister. And that was in the 1990s. So maybe he wanted to be then. Maybe that's when he really wanted to be then, based on
when
that.
He was younger.
Yeah,
he was younger.
But I must say, he looks very good. Give Jack his jacket. I will tell you, he has he looks fit. He looks nothing like his age. Certainly, when you compare him to the other prime ministers or presidents of his same age recently in the United States, there is absolutely no comparison. You cannot use his age to use that as a determination of he does not. He's very fit, very sharp mind, and give him his due. Because I try to be fair, but it's so that when I say what I say, it's because I mean it.
Well, as a person with heavy Tobagonian links, you can get some of that from the Pakran, Wilkes, and Tobago. Once you
have good Tobago links?
Yeah, most of my family from Tobago. I am in Tobago every weekend. Yeah, I knew he was in trouble in Tobago, and they used to tell me, how you think I saw they talking from one neighbor to the next over the wall saying, we done with him, He think it is, don't take him on, don't listen, don't go to the meeting, all that kind of madness. And everybody here going on, they're reverberating, don't go to the meeting. Don't go, the prime minister come in. Don't go outside. I mean, I saw it from Belgarden all the way up to Argyle, Roxborough, down to Richmond Riverhead and back. I mean, come on. And all those neighbors talking, the road look normal, but all of them over the fence. You had no idea that pumpkin vine communication from
absolutely.
Neighbor. I mean, he had no idea. When he coming, nobody coming out. Imagine you talking out in the garden and people looking. No, they were listening, Everybody watching, people from a distance, and there were just a few people talking. I said, "Look at him. Who you think he fooling?" And I told him, I said, "He in trouble." I called my good friend Harvey Burris. I said, "Harvey, you had to go to Tobago and do something, because we in serious trouble. I mean, I can't play white jacket, black jacket. I'm a PNM, but." It looked like we're in serious trouble. I said, Harvey, get involved. Harvey went across. They told Harvey they have everything under control. Harvey come back to us. I went. The PNF, they told me they have everything under control. When it was 14-1, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. Yeah. No.
I'm like you,
intervention where I could have asked Harvey Burris. Shame. Yeah.
Yeah. And even what is going on now with the crime rate. I mean, it is beyond. I mean, I imagine the highest crime rate was when Mr. Manning was the prime minister. That is true, and that was 539 or 538 murders for the year. The second highest murder rate was in 2019 under Gary Griffith. That was the second highest, 519 murders. And then, of course, we had COVID and we had state of emergency. So it dropped down to 300 and something. And now it's 300 and something already. And we are just at the end of August. So look at what it's going to look like in December, by December. And I think they really are clueless. And one thing I did feel strongly about on that, again, with the Prime Minister, I just don't feel I think this is so wrong. The coming out and saying the worst mistake you ever made was selecting Gary Griffith as the
Commissioner of Police.
yeah. What is wrong about that is, okay, I wouldn't. You make me not want to say as a lawyer. You make me want to not say that.
No, Karen, say it.
I find
whenever I say something, you would say, "Oh, look how showing off and you put your face this way and this way." So I said, "Let
me just say this."
No, say it with the lawyer in me.
Okay, right. Because actually, what I found was the first time that the incident happened when Trotsky Prasad, who was head of that commission of inquiry, Police Service Commission, came with the list, order of merit list, to give the president. He finally said he was the person who had been, and just on the day when you have to submit the list to the president. And then the president said the list was immediately withdrawn. Well, I wrote an article on that because I said, under the Constitution, she was very quick to say that she had no power to appoint anyone to act when Gary Griffith's appointment came to an end in the August. So the acting appointments, they have to go through the process of Parliament and notification. And she said she couldn't do it. You have to do it that way because she's a creature of statute, and statute gives she has to follow her statutory obligations. So I couldn't understand how the list could have been withdrawn unless it was given to her. And if she was given to her, there was no option but to go through Parliament. But nevertheless, they went back, the whole thing fell apart. And now the Prime Minister again has come out and spoken. Now, why I look at it from a more legal or constitutional position is this. Before, as you know, before you had the Prime Minister had the power of veto. So I actually got a Hansard report of going back to 2016, yes, at which Prime Minister Rowley spoke. Yes, just 2015 or 2016 just become thing. And he was saying that he never supported this thing of removing the veto because a prime minister in the quiet of his office, away from public ridicule and public misinformation, could look at the list submitted by the independent commission and say yay or nay. But for some reason, when I was abroad, they changed it. And that was when, according to him, he said, according to him, that was when under Patrick Manning administration, when crime was running riot in the country, he then agreed to something that a package, and he took away his power of veto. So he very well understands. My point to you is this. He very well understood before that change happened, the Prime Minister could exercise the power of veto even though the commission could submit a name. It would be left to the Prime Minister to do in the quiet of his office. That's the words he used. But now, with the Police Service Commission having their authority solely to prepare the order of merit list, he cannot interfere at that stage. He cannot interfere at that stage. But what is he doing by saying when they have not submitted the order of merit list to the president? It has not been done. It has not been completed. And we know that that Gary Griffith said that he applied on the last day. How could you, as Prime Minister, the head executive, be saying when you know that what you are saying is you are telegraphing to the Police Service Commission, do not put his name on the merit list? Huh? Yeah. But that is, I'm not talking about Gary and the Prime Minister.
No, you're talking about,
I'm talking about the separation of powers. So why, you know what I will tell them? Don't not only forget about the power of veto, just tell the Police Service Commission that they don't no longer need it. Because if you are basically sending a message to them that before they send out, because he cannot tell them who to put on that merit list. He cannot. But he's telling them, he's going in the public and saying it. So what is he saying to them? He's telling them, do not put his name on that merit list. And if his name is not on the merit list, then it will not go to the president. and it will not go to Parliament. So Gary Griffith will not be considered for the position. That's what the effect of what he's doing, right?
So but also say something else, Karen.
What?
If his name is not on that list, one could also extrapolate from that that the commissioner, the Police Service Commission, they are not independent.
But I'm not even dealing with that. No.
No, but I'm saying that because I'm dealing with the perception, Karen. Okay, because for him to say what he said, and then Gary's name is not on that list, knowing Gary would still, it doesn't matter what people feel about him. He's going to be ahead of most people who may want to put a name on that. So at least he should get on the list.
But you know what?
If his name is not on that list, it is going to send a terrible message about the
But you know what? You know what too? No, that's the way I think.
Yeah.
You know what I think? It's unfair to the Police Service Commission to put them in that position. Because
of course.
So it's unfair to them.
End up there as professionals. As professionals, they should not allow themselves to end up there.
No, that is not the point. The point is this. It may very well be that he should not be on the list. I do not support Gary Griffith. Let me just say that straight up. I think that whole thing with the firearms thing and the other thing with his when he was supposed to, that deputy commissioner was putting money in 20 accounts, and he said he did an investigation, and the police commission authority, PCA, said no, they didn't think, and they sent somebody DPP, and then he said no, he sent somebody DPP, and then the DPP had to come out and say no, you never said anything to me. Look, I would not choose him. But you know what is unfair? Which is the selfishness. He is telegraphing them, don't put it on the list. But suppose they were never going to put it on the list. So and when it's not on the list, it will make the members of the commission and Julia Jones, who's a court of appeal judge, look as though she's taking instructions from the executive. Any way you cut it, it is not right. It is done right to the commission because they are supposed to be independent. And if they are doing their job as they were going to do in any event and not put his name on it, it would look as though they are taking instructions from the Prime Minister and not acting independently. And therefore, their good names are being sullied by the selfishness of the Prime Minister as a member of the executive. So you know what? Get rid of the Police Service Commission and you put your names and give it to the president and go up to do that. Why you have the Police Service Commission there and you are coming out and saying something like that, knowing that the man has applied for the job and knowing that the merit list has not been sent to the president. He did the same thing with the first case with Gary Griffith when he was at the top of the list. He went the same day that Trotsy Prasad went to the president to give her the list, to give her somebody the report for them to go back with the list. You understand what I'm saying? I am saying, I look at this from a bigger picture.
There's another side to it, though. There's another side to it.
Okay, let me hear the other side.
Yeah, if the commission and the commissioners put his name on, right? Now the media would be all over the Police Service Commission ignored the Prime Minister's call.
As they should.
Yeah, but then there'll be a rift between the Prime Minister and the commission. Next thing you hear, people resigning, and so you're right. He should not have put them in that position.
Yes,
because whichever way they turn out, they should have a fallout. Yeah.
What is the meaning of independent? That's what they tell you. That's in the Constitution.
Yes.
Independent means you are free of any political influence and so on. So if his name is on the list, it means that they made their own assessment. So you should be proud of them if for that reason only.
Just excuse me for 8 seconds. Somebody knocking. Just let me check. 8 seconds.
Okay. Daddy Ma, come and help us out here. Huh? You know how you're always telling for him, huh? What are your thoughts in the 8 seconds?
I think the Prime Minister should not he should not be interfering from day one. Because if it's an independent body, by you making those kind of utterances, like I said, like you directing the show from behind the screen, behind the scenes, you just there and shouting from behind the scenes and hoping that they listen. Or if they don't listen, you will take some kind of action to make them look even worse. That's how I saw it. And I don't think the reality of what's happening now, even though they said this about Gary or that about Gary, I don't think this acting commissioner has a grip on anything. Things are going too wild.
Oh yes, I mean he's he's in his out of his depth. He comes across as that. He's
Yes.
not, you know, it's like this thing is, he's not made for the hurly burly of the current criminal situation. He's made for Trinidad when there are 25 murders a year.
Yeah.
And then he could manage that, you know. And I
And
don't
what-
mean any disrespect to him, but he just doesn't
No.
command respect.
Yeah, and what I also observed too is that instead of coming up with tactics or some kind of a way of dealing with this situation, he's pointing fingers at families and, you know, I mean, jeez and nages. That I don't think the commissioner's work is that kind of social sort of approach. I'm not saying it should not be social, but I don't think so much that percentage of social work is needed to combat the crime situation. I don't think that at all.
No, but don't you realize something? They're singing from the same choir, the same psalm book or choir. What is the word they use?
Yeah.
The same hymn book. Because
Yeah.
look, the Minister of National Security has been talking about family.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister has been talking about family.
Mm-hmm.
The Commissioner of Police has been talking about family.
Yeah.
So they all, so that in itself makes you wonder how independent he is, because it seems as though they've all, to the onlooker, the observer,
Mm-hmm.
it seems as though we have decided that we know what is the cause of the crime. We all know what it is. We know what it is. We know that not having good family structure is definitely it makes communities vulnerable. We know that. We don't have to go and persecute that that because the facts are stubborn, and you go in those same communities 25 years ago with higher unemployment, same single parent situation, people working for due, all these factors that you say would cause young men to be involved in criminal activity. They were there by 10. You could multiply by 10, yet it was not there. So
That's
we
right.
know that having those issues makes you vulnerable to being recruited. We know that.
Yeah.
So therefore, we know that not having a strong family structure, especially living in an urban community as opposed to a rural community, it's no question, it makes you far more easily recruitable and
Yeah.
far more easily vulnerable. And there's no question about that. So nobody's going to argue about that. But is that the cause? That's not the cause.
That's
That, in fact, not only is not the cause, but is in fact is the attraction. That is one of the, you know, when you look at a recruit, okay, we want recruiters for this type of job. Who we want? Young men with little education, young men with little family structure, young men who are looking to make some easy money, young men who do not have any family guidance, young men, you see them hanging out at certain places during the day, you know, they're not working anywhere, you know, that requires them to be employed fully. So and it's easy, they're all hanging out at the street corners and so on. So you recruit them. So for three of them, I think it's insulting, and it's apt. And actually, I take it another level, because it is indirectly, it's painful for me to hear a prime minister and a minister of national security and a commissioner of police putting the blame for the high crime rate on lack of family values, because we know what is the other coded message that people can take from that. Who has good family structure, who doesn't, so that you can say that the crime in the country is not because there are a group of people who have nice families and have nice homes and have all the nice things and go to church and support the church and all the good school, denominational schools. They're busy in the schools and they're active in the community. You know, they look at them. They're the pinnacles of virtue and things and respectability.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not going to not look at them. You are going to look at these little boys, urban Afro Trinidadian boys, and say the reason they're like that is they don't have families. We have families. So you are creating greater division in the country. You are also creating a lack of self-worth and self-esteem, which makes them more vulnerable. And it is coming from someone who all three of them have something in common with the same people, that they are decrying.
That's
You
right.
are decrying a group of people of whom you belong to and saying is they do not have a family structure. So what are you doing? What is the objective in that? The objective is to get me to deflect and think about, don't look at the real reason. We all know the real reason. We all know it. We all know it. So, I mean, we know it, but if we don't want to know it, we won't know it.
That's right. That's right. And I don't think that they are doing anything at all to alleviate that by, like, I use a simple term: keep the young people busy in different things, be it vocational, whatever. Keep them busy. Set up facilities to keep them busy. That is my take in the fight against getting the young people into something positive rather than negative. But nothing like that is happening. We're not seeing. As a matter of fact, they have interfered with the NESC. They have interfered with vocational entities. They have even interfered with like UTT and taken away from the same people who they are pointing finger at. And the situation now with the struggle to survive these days, it's even worse and more impacting on people who don't have an income that can do those kind of things. So why take away those things? You're not providing income for these families. The kind of income is like as though I see a lot of young people in my area, pretty girls, young, strong fellas, cleaning the road, cleaning by the lake.
I want them there, you see.
Yeah, like in this design.
They want them there. They want them there.
Yes.
Because, can I use as a metaphor for that?
Yes.
My metaphor for this, I see Richard is Richard back? He hasn't.
No, that's it.
Not seen it. Okay. I will use this as a metaphor. Again, it comes from the way I think and I approach a problem thing. The scrap iron issue.
Yes.
The scrap iron issue. Who are the ones suffering? At least the face of the ones suffering. Because it remind me of the gambling when they try with the casinos.
Yes.
They put out all the mummies and the young girls and the thing. But the puppeteers were behind there, but they ain't going out on the street because nobody will have any sympathy for them.
That's
so
right.
They put these people out, and it's so sad, put them out to make the noise. And again, they get blamed and they look at how they're behaving, but they're really not pulling the strings, and the strings are being pulled because they want to keep their job. But the person who want them to give the job is not for the same objective as the person who working for whatever little bit of money they're working for. They want to keep the gambling casinos open. So they put these people out in front to say, I can't buy milk for my child. And I see the same thing with the scrap iron thing. I believe that these young men are being used again, getting the bad name, but getting the bad name. And what is the government's response? What they do to them all the time, as read it today, giving them subsidies. They can apply for subsidy. They can apply for this because they want you to stay wrong. I told you this. I've said this already. Subsidies are being used by this government, in my respectful opinion, not as a means of social welfare. Yes, if you are disabled, yes, there are obviously cases where you would need to subsidize in that way, social benefits, obviously. But subsidies, whether it is in the URP or the CPEP, which I consider those to be subsidized because, make work projects, which cannot mine a part on a stick. The fact that they taking these same young men who are somebody pulling those strings in the back, right? Just like with the gambling, somebody was pulling those strings in the back, but they putting these little boys out there and making them, people hate them more and say, look at them, look at how they behave. They have no thing, but using them, right? And then when they using them to achieve their objective, and then what is the government response? Not let us have, as somebody wrote, Arjun, Miss Dr. Arjun, the economist, regulate the industry. But you know what? You regulate it like how you're regulating gambling, regulate it how you're regulating procurement. So you're fooling yourself. They'll pass the regulations, maybe sometime in the future. But when they do, based on this country's level in terms of corruption perception, you just created another avenue for corruption, for somebody to take a bribe and take money under the table, right? Because that is how this country operates. So what I'm saying is, look at the government's response to them. Instead of saying, let us the poor men, these are the guys who depend on, to mind their children or whatever. But whoever's in the back, there's somebody in the back. But what the answer is, give them subsidies.
Yes.
Apply for subsidy. And by the time they apply for the subsidies, a whole month pass because they have to fill it out and it must be on a computer. They have to give it all kind of information, but the government will, it's so insulting. It's so insulting. I'm so fed up of it. I don't see how they don't see they're being used. Why don't you say we're going to make you entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Why you don't tell you, and tell Kamala, the Noray, the UNC thing, why Port of Spain talking about agro industry? So why Port of Spain can't talk about it? Why Port of Spain? That is code again, right? You don't understand, why don't you make them entrepreneurs? Why don't you do what St. Vincent is doing, where they have the terminal, I think they call it terminal, I looked it up before I came on the show actually, so I'd get the phrase correct, terminal gates, where the farmer will take it from the farm, produce the item to the farm gate, and then when it reaches there, then it will be packaged and maybe, go through a value-added process. And then that's the terminal gate. And that terminal gate will then export it to Trinidad, but Trinidad also will have a terminal gate. And whoever's controlling the terminal gate will pay everyone, will pay the farmers. But what I'm saying is you could go up the value chain more than just packaging the scythe, packaging the garlic or whatever. You could go up a value-added chain and package chutneys and so on. Yes. And you could do an abbreviated form of it right now. What are you waiting on? But you quickly tell them subsidies. Keep them down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So they will always be vulnerable, always be looked down upon, always looked down as if they have nothing, and you setting them up for failure. And the hurtful thing about it is, you give people a sense of superiority when they say, why they're like that? No family.
Yeah.
No family. Yeah. But what you're doing is you are really exploiting a weakness that was there 25 years ago before somebody came inside there to recruit.
Yes, that is so true.
I know it's true, and they know it's true.
Yeah.
And you and I take great exception for the Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, the Commissioner of Police. So a Commissioner of Police to me shows a lack of independence because they're all singing from the same hymn book.
That's right.
Family, everybody, all of a sudden now it's family. That that calypso, family,
yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
All of them, all of them have that one message because you know why? They do not want to deal with the truth. And you know why? Because they know what the real problem is. And guess what? When they say that, they make a lot of people feel, you see, it's not our problem,
Yeah.
Because, look at these children. Because it's true they don't have their fathers. It's true that they are very vulnerable. But that vulnerability is what makes them recruitable.
That's right.
And by the way, when you say keep them busy, I don't think you want to just keep them busy. You want to make them busy and profitable. Because why can't they make money? Why is it only some people must have money? And why must they be the consumers? You know why? Because the day you get the idea to be an entrepreneur, guess what? They're losing their consumers.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Of course.
That's it. Why are you telling them about subsidies? Not subsidies. Why don't you set up how long you have a faculty of agriculture? How long you have a ministry of agriculture? How long you don't know about hydroponics and all? Why you can't set up these abbreviated forms of these programs and use the terminal gate approach, which is what the minister from St. Vincent said. Caesar, I can't remember the last name. It's an unusual name. Why can't you do that instead of subsidy? Because they must stay right at the bottom to be exploited and looked down upon.
Yes, it's so correct. And I have a problem with that because I know there are so much things in Trinidad that one can get into to make some money to survive. You might not be making $1 million a week or $1 million a day, but surely there are things that we can do. Because I thought too, when Mr. Manning had brought on the CPEP thing, I thought that when he said, okay, this is a periodic thing, you'll do this for a while, and then you can get into this and get into that. I was wondering why, with all the agri-talk now, why don't they use a bunch of people also on a nice piece of an acreage of land or something and let them plant food.
But not only plant food, you see what you have to do. This is why they don't have any excuse, because as I said, we have a faculty of agriculture. Before the university was set up, it was a branch of the University of London, which is why our students can go easily to University of London with a not the first class degree and get in, because we are attached to the University of London, and UE has that good name, still has a good name.
Yeah.
Right. But they started off with it wasn't the faculty of agriculture, but it was the first beginning of the university. And then you have the ministry, and then you have the faculty, and then you have all the advances. So what I say is we import $5 billion worth of food every year.
Yeah.
It's our certain, I can't remember, and and that percentage of import of food has increased in the last financial report of 2021 from the central bank. Who is importing the food, and whose interest is it to continue for us to continue to import food? Yes. That is the question to be asked, because there's obviously a sector that's protecting their interests, and the interest has to be being protected. That this country will not, now in the face now that we know food security is really a big deal after COVID-19, and now we've seen what's going on in Europe and so on. People understand what happened in Sri Lanka, and I think in Lebanon, and all these countries. Everybody understands the importance of food security to be able to feed itself and export. But there are some interests in this country that are importing the food into this country that don't want us to do that. And somehow, just like the hotels that they're putting up in Tobago, they can't answer. Well, up to now they haven't answered why they're putting them hotels there. All right. This is what makes you not have any trust and confidence in the government looking after the interests of the people of this country.
Exactly.
Well, they would tell you, first of all, I apologize. I said 8 seconds. But
Daddy man did a good job. You better watch out, huh?
Okay. I believe that. The Mark is very talented. But it was.
No, Richard. I would miss you.
I
would miss you, Richard.
Yes.
Are you blushing? Are you blushing, Richard?
Yes.
Blushing. Yeah, because it's the truth. Why do you think I made the effort to do this show? I make the effort no matter where I am. I say, no, I'm doing the show. I said, when I do this show, it lifts my spirit.
Yeah.
You lift mine too, Scarlett.
Oh, gosh, we're going to have a religious moment now.
You have plenty lyrics to you, Daddy man.
Yeah. So I've been told since I'm small.
Yes. Some AC people came who had called to come and check the units, and they're here.
No free advertisement, huh?
No, I'm not going to give their name,
Okay, but they are good. Are they good?
Very, very good, Karen. If you need them, I'll send the name to you.
Okay,
trustworthy people, decent,
that's important.
Yeah. And they do a good job. All right. Yeah. So, but I was listening to some of it. So what are going to do with all our hotel that they intend to build in Tobago? But I tell you, it is to convey again an impression, hopefully, to the Tobagonian people that planes are going to be coming in soon. They won't have enough airport for planes to land, to fill all those rooms. And then they will tell them, you need to have a certain amount of accommodation on the island before you can attract certain airlines. All of that they will come with what you could call nonsensical talk. Why it's nonsensical talk now? Simply because we have heard that now for 15, 20 years. So, I mean, come on. That's why they're building the hotels, Karen. They can't, you said it, Leon, that's why they can't right now even fully hotels in Tobago right now.
Yeah, but I was making a bigger point to that. So you really listen a little bit of what myself and Daddy Mark. Yeah, the point was, but I won't say I'm afraid to say it's a kind of way of thinking, afraid to say that. But in the same way now with the scrap iron, what's going on with the scrap iron dealers? I said, we were saying that they're putting a certain set of people in the front, but I'm sure they're not the real movers and shakers. There's somebody pulling these strings in the back. But unfortunately, the faces of the persons you're seeing are the persons who are usually the targets of derision, targets of contempt in this country. And they are the ones you're putting in the front. And what is the government's response to dealing with it? Dr. Arjun, I don't know if that's first name or last name. I apologize if I've gotten it wrong.
I
but
know
I read. Huh?
Economist. I know the
Yes,
economist.
the economist. He said,
gentleman. Yeah.
yes, he said, what we should do is to regulate. But we already said regulate. Well, the way this government regulates anything, you're just creating another opportunity for money to pass and bribes and so on. And when will he regulate? So that's out of the question. But what I was saying is that what was the government's response? Instead of build up the agro industry and do that approach that they're doing in St. Vincent with the terminal gates and using that to create entrepreneurs in the agro industry. Instead of doing that, you're offering them subsidies. Yeah, keep them right down there. Keep them like in the THA. Nearly everybody getting government salary. You know why? Because we want you to keep a dependency, and we know who the people are, right? So you want us to stay right down at the bottom instead of trying to pull me up and tell me get away, remove yourself from that dependency. You want that dependency, and unfortunately, we know who is the target of that dependency. As Kamala Prasad said, she said, "Why are they talking about Port of Spain with the agro industry?" What she meant by that? What was the code there? That the agriculture shouldn't come to Port of Spain people? And the government response, instead of making entrepreneurs of them, what is their response? Give them subsidies, keep them dependent. And that's what they did with the gambling. I wasn't in government on the first time it happened, but I know the strings were not, the people who were in the front were not the people who own the businesses, but they came out there saying they can't feed their children, they wouldn't have milk to feed their children, and had them out on the street. Somebody pulling them the strings in the background, and you're giving who a bad name? The same group of people that you deride and look down upon. Keeping them right down at the bottom of the pile. I mean, it disgusts me.
And those
word.
are the same people you depend on to put you back in office.
And you and we, the people, allow them to wake. I mean, I think more and more people are recognizing that. And they get mad with me. Don't get mad with me. You see me supporting any other party, and I certainly do not support the UNC. So don't put me in that bag. That I am not a grasshopper. I have not jumped ship. I must be like how they have Republicans who do not support Trump. And there are plenty of Republicans who do not support Trump, but they're still Republicans.
I'm a PNM who no longer support this Prime Minister.
Oh, yeah, as you said, no longer. Yeah, that was very... As I guess, no, I didn't know Richard. I didn't know that you was a bull. But by the way, I don't want to come across as a thing. It's just that he has made you reach the point where, you have little confidence. And then the hotels, that was the other thing. What you building these hotels for? What these hotels for? Why you have not passed the regulations for the gambling industry? Why it is you cannot come into a gambling casino without getting a search warrant. You cannot go in if they don't let you in. So what's the point? Everybody knows it's sting operations. The point is that you have no notice. So the legislation they passed in order to get a simple majority, instead of a special majority, I understand, is that they can only come in if you have a search warrant or if they let you in. And where are the regulations? Where are the regulations? The Procurement Act. Where are the regulations for the Procurement Act? Where I think when we talk about these things, it's not our fault. National Statistical Institute, where that is, the crime rate. What kind of killing you're seeing is automatic guns, or it is execution style killing. So they may have some domestic murders there, but the large percentage is related to the underground informal sector in this country. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. So,
but they're not shutting down anything. They're not shutting down anything to put that in trouble. You just get a few. I want to go back to, because you're talking about, I think you made a reference earlier on the scrap metal dealers.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister said the other night, I raised it on the show already, but I want your take on it. He said the other night, trying to explain why he shut down the industry. He said, I don't know, you heard it at all?
No, I don't tell you I don't listen. I get edited format. I did that
Oh, well,
when I
me
was, but I
too.
listen.
Me
That
too.
also
It's
goes
the
for
edited
myself
piece
too.
I got. It's the edited piece I got. He can't get me
Yeah,
to listen to the whole
but I
script.
got
So
the
maybe
edited
he's going to
piece.
start to drink batchak water. Not me. Uh, let me. So
Yeah.
I got the edited parts too,
Okay.
and one of the edited parts he was addressing the reason why he shut down the scrap metal dealers. He
Hmm.
said, "You can imagine. I pick up the papers or something like that, and it have a gate by the airport where when you go through that gate, it takes you. There's the passage to get to the tank farm that would house all the millions of gallons of fuel for the aircrafts, right?
Hmm.
That gate, he said, they moved the gate. They thief the gate. That's what the man said. And then he said, he went on to say, anybody could have walked in there and do anything unimaginable with all that fuel and all kind of thing there. And I said to myself, there's a prime minister talking. No, he said that to justify why he shut down. Because, and then hear how he speaks. I would hear how he speaks. People need to understand this about him. After he did that, he said, just like this, he flipped from that, and he said, they thief the manhole covers, they thief in cable wherever they see it.
But
I
Keith, when I said
cannot.
not his so
Hold on, get this. After he said that, hear how he switches it now. This is a clever way. He has new conjunctions, Hear how he made the connection here by flipping it too. I cannot put a policeman by every manhole cover. I cannot put a police officer by every piece of cable. So I came on the show, we discussed it, and I say, who asked him to put a policeman by every manhole cover? What was he responding to? Who asked him to put a policeman by every piece of cable? So now, and people would feel there's a requirement to manage the situation, putting a policeman by every manhole cover. Then he said it only has 7,000 police officers in this country. We need them to fight those who killing us in this country every day. How you go put one by every manhole cover? He don't have so many police officers. Now I'm gonna tell you, if the requirement whenever I had a problem was to put like in the manhole cover case, if every manhole cover you put a police officer, then one could argue now equally for every murder in this country, we should have a police officer at least next to somebody. So half the population should be police officers in order to manage the next half. Now you see how that's how management works. Normally, we have 7,000 police officers, and that 7,000 should manage what is known as the span of control based on the size of the population. That is management. Equally, you have some manhole covers. What you do, you come up with a system to manage it. So you have a police station here, you come up with proper laws and serious punishment for anyone caught doing that. And in the meantime, you get different engineers or whoever to design a different manhole cover that you could use with board or some other metal. But you have to shut the industry completely down. That's what you're saying, in order to bring some control to it. What company or country in order to bring control to something, they shut down the country or they shut down the company? It don't make sense. In this case, you shut down a whole industry just to control it. It's craziness. But just the other day, legalized marijuana, where they're planting all through the forest all about. They tell them up there now, it had leaf up there, policemen too, to manage how many trees you plant. I mean, you see the kind of nonsense people talk about. One other thing, Karen. By telling people, this is the worst part of it. I know you pick it up pride. You're one of the brightest ladies in this country.
No, Daddy Mark. No, you understand? No. That's why I have to come on the show on a Monday. Huh?
Yeah, what was the worst part of what you said?
Whoever making me feel bad during the rest of the week.
Yes.
I said, you can say what you want. I have my fans on 102.
Yeah.
The worst part he tackled that he didn't know he said is this. When you telling Npiako International Airport is called an international airport because it is an international airport, you tell the whole anybody who had an interest to listen, the one gate
That's
scrap
true.
metal men move created an opening to get to the tanks.
Absolutely.
Now a prime minister or president,
It
son,
is a
daughter,
national
family could
security
be in an
risk.
aircraft and they can have people scrapping an aircraft while in it, while it's in the
It's true.
while it's parked up there, or somebody could be lighting the tanks
That's
on
true.
fire, blow up the whole place, or
That
that we
is
have
true.
more security in the international airport and they can
That's
downgrade us.
true.
You see recklessness? And I said,
That is
Jay,
a
you
very
can't
good
even
point.
manage. He can't even manage his utterances. He's
That's a
only
very
been
good
the
point.
moment on the platform. And I said, this guy is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Come on, give me Karen Nunez Tesheira anyway.
You don't get me in trouble, yes? Listen,
Or Camille Regis Robinson,
Richard,
or Penny Beckles, or Amy Brown. Give me one of
yes,
those four in our
yes.
great
I would
party,
say
the
Amy
People's
Brown is a good
National Movement. Well, it's
selection.
time for us to make a change. This is craziness.
Yeah. I would say if I had to, out of the group that's there, and I had to make a thing, I would give Amy Brown. But let's leave that part alone. Let's go back to what you were saying. I don't know, and you made you made two very. I know that you don't make excellent points all the time, but you made two very, very excellent points. We are subject to international IATA, a member of that. So when you have a crash with any plane, remember that thing happened in Ghana.
Yeah, with the plane
If they
overrun
find
the airport.
drugs on your plane, if they finding you, they penalize you. So you are
Yeah,
part of an international community because we know for the last how many years since, certainly with the Twin Tower crashes, that you know that airplanes and the airplanes are used as weapons of destruction and weapons of war, right? So for him to say on a public platform that the gate that leads to the tank that stores the petrol was not secured was very
aviation
reckless, was
fuel.
very, very reckless on his part. I must say that. That was the height of recklessness. And it's certainly, if he didn't get a call, must have gotten a call from somebody from IATA to say, well, how, man who's not so important, You see that if you have to have a policeman, you have to make, what is the point of having security in an airport? You have to have security. So how could it be that a gate leading to a potential explosive, it's like having dynamite there, and you have it unguarded? That says a lot about the management of the airport. That's what it says. But what he was trying to do, I think, as he did very successfully with COVID at the beginning, while we did not have the vaccine, and to continue to be able to make sure that the country as a whole tuned in on every Thursday to the cabinet meeting, also known as a platform speeches, also known as getting ready for elections. But I don't blame him. That's what politicians do, and he
Like
did that.
politics, you had to take the
Yeah. So
platform.
I'm not against that. I'd already say
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's a good move. That
I'm
was a good move,
supporting you, Karen.
right?
I'm supporting you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we got given like give I keep saying Jack is jacket, but he did what he did, and can't anybody would have done that. Okay, anyone with any sense, political sense would have done that. But what your point is a very good point. Put in this stop or gap or hiatus on the scrap metal industry. What problem is it solving? What is the problem? It's like closing on Petrotrin. You didn't learn from that. What is
Yeah.
what are you? I mean, and therefore it makes you suspicious again. Well, you see, I am going to be a suspicious, even though it may be innocent. Unfortunately, having been in a cabinet and understanding, things are not, most times are not what they seem. I can assure you of that one. You get a lot of surprises and you get a lot of information that you didn't even know, connections that you weren't aware of. For him to just make that decision like that, to shut it down without a solution in place and putting so many people on the breadline with already a heated situation in the country, and you can't fix potholes, the whole country full of potholes, something not adding up there. But what he was doing was fear mongering. That's what he did, fear mongering. And I read also, as my last point on that was, I don't want to say who was the author of the statement because he's a terrible man. He was a terrible, terrible man, but he was one of the greatest propagandists in the world. So you can understand era and the person it may have come from. He said, in politics and trying to persuade people, you don't persuade people by in using their logic and so on. You persuade people by using emotion, appealing to their emotions. And what he was appealing to the emotion of fear. So he connected. He was protecting us. When he did that, he wanted people to say, "Oh, this is a prime minister that's protecting us." When the opposite is, he should never have said what he said, and he didn't. And then he set up a committee. Did he set up a committee?
Yeah,
No, he set up another committee. And I wanted to be. No, he didn't set up a committee. No, because he has to stop. But so what's his solutions after 6 months?
I think he may have set up a committee to look at the scrapyard workings and so on. Yeah.
Oh, but we don't know. He has announced it, right?
Yeah, he said, but down for 6 months.
It's 6 months. I mean, what? Yeah. Unless you tell me I'm closing it down for 6 months, and in that period we intend to X, Y, and Z. You don't have to give out the whole story because you need to have a certain confidentiality. But
people no longer be a strategy either.
Right. Maybe you need to let people know you're doing something in the interim and justify the closure of it, because in the next 6 months, can they still go back there and take out the gate and take up the manholes? I mean, are they going to be able to do the same thing? It just doesn't make any sense.
A lot of people are of the opinion that during this 6 months period, the bigger heads who are behind the scene will be hauling all the scrap iron and moving it out of the country without people knowing. It is banned and they're shutting down. Nobody will be thinking about, I wonder they're still moving scrap iron out of the country. That will be done so silently by the big heads who have that kind of authority and that kind of will to to get around the government, because it seems that
not to get around the government, to work with the government. Don't say get around.
Right.
No. We all are not village idiots.
I know.
The government creating this,
working in tandem with the government.
Yes.
So the government come up with a position to say to the little man who they call the scavenger and them, back off, so that the real big guys could not go into the refinery and take all the rest of the and all of that thing, and nobody can come in.
It's the same thing with the gambling. It's the same thing with the drugs. It's the same thing. Putting the little man.
It's the same playbook.
Same playbook. But guess what? You know who doing it to you? Is your own, and they given that you could not use as much code as they want to use. And then they want to say it's lack of family.
Yes.
Lack of family. I never see that it's graceful. I am disgraceful, I have to say, and it's actually, I think it's quite painful for me to have to listen to that and for people to accept it, because yes, that's what you are seeing. That is what you are seeing. But what is behind it? There has to be some force behind it. There's a force behind it, right? And the force is not out on the street. You know that. You have to know that. So stop looking at the boy, stop putting your eyes on them. That's what they want you to do. And what you're doing is you are destroying those young people. I'm not saying that some of them are not bad, And I'm not saying some of them are not going to be bad, even if they got everything. I'm not making them into angels, because every group, rich, poor, do not romanticize poverty. My husband came from Nelson Street back in the days before the gangs took over. His father stayed there, or family stayed there a little while longer, and Nelson Street had just become a drug den, right? But before then, it was a lot of the most respectable people in this country came from the plannings. But what I'm saying is, so I am not romanticizing them, I understand among the poor, but poor, middle class, everybody is, but what is different with them is their level of vulnerability and the willingness to go after them and make them your target. And for the government to come and trying to tell us is lack of family. Please, please don't do that. Just say that makes them vulnerable. So we're going to do something and not give them subsidies. We're going to make them into because listen, all of those people who are big businessmen today, if you follow their story, like Lockjack, they started up very, very humbly,
Yes.
And they're not overnight success, and then you hear about them. So it doesn't mean those little boys and girls that you're helping, we don't expect them tomorrow they'll be rich, But if you help them to come out of their poverty and to see a light at the end of the tunnel, they too can get a piece of the pie that they call Trinidad and Tobago.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. But the government policy today is to make sure that does not happen. They alone, they alone know why. Their policy, on the contrary, as you have said, Karen, is to condition the poor to accept demeaning jobs and not see themselves as capable of doing anything better than demeaning jobs. And you tell us you are a good prime minister, you get a big percentage of your population whom you lead in to believe that all they can do is eat leaves and break their backs, carry blocks and live like hustlers. And you believe you're a good prime minister.
Guess what? And you're targeting the group because you could use as much quotas you want. We all know who you're talking about, right? We all know who you're talking about. And if you say that about these people, what you leave for other people to say about them?
Of course. And the same people you talk about go more clearer than you, Karen. They look just like him. But he can say, although they look like him,
but no.
Like
that's why he has no sympathy. That's the thing. You have to have empathy as a prime minister.
Yeah, our similarity.
You know why he has no empathy?
Nothing else. Yeah.
I want to say this. You know why? This is what I think. I mean, I may be wrong, but I think he believes, but I made it. I came from poor, but you came from a rural community where you didn't have the kind of temptations and issues to deal with, and at a different time. But besides the point, you obviously were intelligent. God gave you, whoever you believe in. If you think, however it is, that you're definitely an intelligent person, and somehow I think sometimes you feel, well, if I made it and other people from Tobago, well known, have made it, and other people have made it, well, why couldn't they make it? No, that is not what Eric Williams talk about. Because if Eric Williams didn't do what he did, you know how many of them will be still down at the bottom of the economic structure. You know, in America, it's the land of opportunities, the land of immigrants. Yes, Richard Noray, it's time for us to stop.
No.
Yeah. It's the land of opportunity. You know, many people came from Ireland and Sicily and Italy and Poland who came from, couldn't read and write, poor and uneducated, and today their families are doctors. And the same in Trinidad. So do not do that to them. Do not make them feel unworthy.
Yeah. And he would look at other groups' children and see the need for them to get the best of everything to become something in the future. But then he would look to the children, parents who look like him and feel, forget him now. They had to go and pick coconuts.
He does not have empathy, and he doesn't have empathy, and unfortunately, he doesn't understand that. Okay, good for you, you did it, wonderful. But that's not the story of a lot of people. And guess what? A lot of those people who have money, they have children who are troubled. They have issues like everybody else, and a lot of people work hard to reach where they are. And it is not you to judge them; it's you to help them. Else you shouldn't be there. Right? It's not for you to judge them. That's not your job. Your job is to make sure that you try to help them instead of denouncing them, deriding them, and making them feel worthless. And that's what you're doing. That's them telling them you must have mommy and daddy. They don't have mommy and daddy. A lot of the people, I won't call names, but there's some of the most successful people in this country who brought up as single parents by their mothers.
Yeah.
And some of the most successful people in this country, I will not call names, but take it for what I say. Some of the most successful. So
tomorrow, Karen, I know we have to run the clock down.
I have to go now.
I have to go and set the clock. I have to set the clock, Karen. As always, I had to set the clock. I'll miss you until then. I'll miss you. So, thanks again. Great contribution. Tomorrow, though, the speech that nobody's taken on that he gave the other night, you notice nobody's talking about it, you know. You see when the society turn their back in here. But I will do my favor. Tomorrow, I want to talk some more about that speech. I'm going to help our listeners to learn tomorrow more parts of it so that you all would see the nonsense you all have been swallowing up for years. It just don't make sense. I would prove it to some of you all tomorrow. Tomorrow, sad, Karen, if you have nothing to do, come on. Because
I'm flying out. I'm coming home.
You're coming home. Oh boy.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Friend,
Okay,
We'll
you
see you all
you be
next week.
safe.
Yes.
Yes. We look
Take it
forward.
easy.
Bye bye,
Yeah.
Daddy Mark,
Bye bye.
Ruben, everybody, your listeners, your viewers. Always happy to be with you on a Monday.
All right.
Same here.
All right, Karen.
Bye
Take it
bye.
easy. Next
Take
week,
care.
Ruben, Karen, say good evening. Richard, Paul
Everybody.
Richard, everybody,
Yes,
Melissa.
and Paul Richard, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Until next week, Monday. Daddy
Have
Mac
a
will
safe
hear
Daddy
that.
Mark, yes.
Karen.
When you want to run away for a little while, you know you're feeling, eh?
Yes, of course.
Right. Take care. All right. Bye.
Ruben
Take
say
care.
Have
thank
a
you.
good this month.
Ruben say thank you.
All right. Bye bye. Take
All
care.
right,
Bye-bye.
take it easy. All right.
Okay. Well, we go straight to the news, Richard.
I would listen to the news here.
Okay, thank you. News at 6.
Power 102 Digital.
Yeah.
We sound like home.